All right, I need to set some expectations here because for the past 2 years, I have been living on a sailboat in the middle of the ocean, and if it weren't for my little brother, my best friend would probably be a dolphin. Anyway, so naturally, I am here to talk to you about human connection. Anyway, I am Avalon, I am 18, and over the past 8 years, I have been living in 63 different countries. Yeah. So, to give you some backstory, I was born in Los Angeles, but I lived in Boston until 2014 when my family moved to Costa Rica for what was supposed to be a one-year, one-time adventure. There were a lot of reasons behind this move. We wanted to see the world, we wanted to get out of our comfort zones and explore a new place, meet new people, but most importantly, to scare the crap out of my grandparents. Of course. Anyway, over that year, we interacted with all the natural beauty that Costa Rica had to offer: crystal clear waterfalls, rainbow birds, and the best fruit I have ever had in my entire life. Oh my God, it was so good. But anyway, by the end, something had happened. Way back in the US, my grandparents felt a shiver run down their spines. Yeah, we were not going back home. After that, we lived in Ecuador and France, each for a year. Then we bought an RV and traveled to every country in Europe in it over 2.5 years. After that, we moved to Japan and lived there for 5 years, 5 months, holy crap. Anyway, but that is just the tip of the iceberg, because after that, we came back to France, bought a boat, and started learning to sail with no previous sailing experience whatsoever. And that is the story. Basically, over time, we became more confident in our sailing abilities until this past January, we crossed the Atlantic Ocean, landing in the Caribbean 21 days and 20 hours later. My parents, my brother, my cat, who I have a sort of bad relationship with, and myself. You know those people who, like, during the pandemic were like, oh my God, I wish I could just pack everything and sail off into the sunset. That was us, except there were no sunsets because we learned to sail in January when it was below freezing in France. Perhaps not the best decision, but it ended up working out. So, now you're all caught up. Anyway, why human connection? Well, it's something that has sort of been, oh yeah, I was supposed to be scrolling through slides this entire time, by the way, so let's just do that real quick. Me, my little brother, traveling around. As you can see, I had a fantastic time on the boat. Fantastic photo of myself as a child, yes. Let's see. Costa Rica, amazing. My lovely grandparents. More of Costa Rica. That photo right there with the aqueduct is actually when I met Matt the first time, many, many years ago, and you can see his daughter in the photo there. Then we also have the RV, Japan, the boat, and cold weather on the boat. Very fun. Anyway, so why connection? Well, it is something that has sort of been a constant in my life. Growing up, I would sometimes be in several countries per week, which meant I would be meeting a ton of people. It could be a tour guide, a friend, just someone that I met in line and struck up a conversation with. But one experience that sticks out in particular was a weekend several years ago when we were still living in the RV. My family had taken a detour from Europe, ended up in Morocco, and through an Airbnb listing, we met this guy named Said who ran a cultural exchange at his home in the High Atlas Mountains. My mom, always looking for a new adventure, was immediately like, heck yeah, let's go stay there. So that is how we found ourselves, driving up these tiny mountain roads to find the village. Now, it took us a while to find the place, but eventually we parked, and almost by magic, or the worst possible thing that could have ever happened in the history of the universe ever, if you were 13-year-old me, a bunch of kids were waiting for us by the side of the road. They came over and started talking to us in French, and I kind of hid in the back of the RV. I can't really tell you why. It was a mix of fear that my French wouldn't hold up, worry that we would be too different to have anything to talk about and end up in weird, awkward silences, and that universal shyness that everyone goes through when meeting new people. And I meet everyone, because you social butterflies out there are not fooling anyone. Anyway, we eventually had to leave the safety of the RV, and we made our way down to the village, accompanied by our little escort of kids. For the first few hours that weekend, I stuck close to my family. While the kids were outside playing games, I was indoors translating for the parents. And while I learned a lot about the village those few hours, something was missing. It was a surface connection where I was physically present but not actively participating. Eventually, my little brother went out to join the kids, and soon enough, I mustered up the courage as well and went out and joined them. From there, evidently, everything changed. Kids are kids around the world. It didn't matter if we didn't all share the same language or if our ages spanned 6 to 16. We played games within minutes. They had taught me hand-clapping games and a new version of soccer that involved a fair amount of tree climbing. Don't ask me to explain it. To this day, I don't really understand what we were doing, but it worked out in the end. So, my brother and I shared the American candy we had on hand. We told jokes until the light of their oven's fire had died out, and eventually our parents made us all go to sleep. The next morning, we got up and did it all over again, and again the next day, until suddenly the weekend was over and it was time for us to go home. Like all weekend friendships, we begged 5 more minutes, or in French, 5 minutes de plus, at least like 10 million times maybe. But all good things must come to an end. So we packed up and left in the RV on to the next adventure. So when I think back on that experience, certain things stand out in particular. I don't remember what I packed that weekend or what I ate. Actually, I do remember what I ate because it was like literally the best Moroccan food I've ever had in my entire life. Oh my God, can you tell I'm a foodie? Anyway, what I remember most was the people. My family in the RV, the parents inside, the kids outside. But why does this matter? Think back in your own lives. Think about your happiest moments. Do you remember who you were with? People have the biggest impact on our lives. On an individual scale, all it takes sometimes to fix a bad day is one person, one connection. Even the smallest text can mean the biggest of difference if it's coming from someone you care about. But on a grander scale, through connection, we develop empathy. Now, the Oxford definition of empathy is the ability to understand others' experiences and feelings. What I'd like to add to that is the ability to make emotional ties to others, to share a part of yourself. We gain empathy by connecting, by coexisting. We gain empathy by learning about other people on a deeper level than just face value. To have empathy is to care about the lives of others near and far, their hopes, their struggles, their dreams. And shit, I forgot what I was supposed to say. I'm a college student, what can I say? Anyway, so through my travels, I've had many, many times to practice this skill, to learn about empathy with people from Japan to Ecuador and back again. It's shown me the value of this skill and how important it is in helping other people who are most in need. But I've also seen a lack of it showing up way more than it should. We are currently in a crisis of empathy. The biggest, most critical issues around the world all stem from increasing divides between people and cultures. Whether these divides are intentional or not, they are stopping us from making the empathetic decisions that we need right now. We've stopped connecting, we've stopped learning about each other, and what has taken stage instead is fear. Think of all the things that we could accomplish if we were more empathetic, the people we could help. Sometimes all it takes is one person, one connection. By simply meeting each other, we begin to mend these divides, to shrink the distances between us. We begin connecting again. I don't need to name all the crises that could be solved if we were to become better. I'm sure you can already come up with dozens on your own, and I've only got 12 minutes up on this stage with very few remaining. So before I leave, I need to say one more thing. Meeting people is hard. Even for me, who's had 8 years of practice. It's incredibly vulnerable. It's a skill that needs to be practiced. I recently started attending Carnegie Mellon University this past year, and suddenly it was people everywhere all the time. Remember, I was used to the boat, to fish. They're not that talkative fish. So coming to school, those first 2 weeks were bloody terrifying. But connection is inherently scary. It is showing others who you are on a deeper level and asking them to accept you. And now, especially in the social media age, where if you are not accepted, look out. The point is, it's the peak of unknown. This interaction could go any way. For all I know, you guys could all decide suddenly that you hate sailors, and I get booed off stage in a hail of Hero Roundtable pamphlets and winter coats. But connection is the most important thing. It is incredibly scary, but in face of this fear lies the heroism of it. People have the capacity to do such amazing things if we only step out of our comfort zone and make an effort. It's not going to be easy, but nothing worthwhile in life ever is, and we can't do it alone. Right now, I'm surrounded by a group of amazing, empathetic, creative people. It is the perfect time to reach out and form a connection. So, go ahead. What are you waiting for? And in the end, if it doesn't work out, I know a fantastic pod of dolphins in the Mediterranean Sea who are just dying to meet you. Anyway, thank you. I am Avalon Sueiro, and I'll see you on the flip side.